neuron has a job: to communicate with other neurons. The brain works by forming networks among these cells. The long, spiny branches of the networks create a neural forest of astounding intricacy. Neurons use these communication lines to talk to each other with electric and chemical signals. Here under microscope are two neurons linking up. Though it may look like they fuse together, neurons don't actually touch each other. A closer look reveals that a tiny gap called the synapse separates their branches. This is where a message passes from one neuron to the next. The message comes from here, small sacs that store chemical molecules. When stimulated, these sacs release their molecules which cross the cell membrane into the synaptic gap. An electric zap allows this to happen. Meantime, the receiving neuron has special welcome sites for the incoming molecules. These receptor sites bind with the molecules. When they do, special gates open up. The gates let in a flood of charged particles, sodium and potassium ions, which start up a new electrical signal in the receiving neuron. This simple chain of events, an electrical zap followed by chemical changes, followed by another electrical zap, is the basis of all brain activity. It's how neurons speak to each other. Here, then, is the key to the brain's complexity. There are 100 billion neurons in the brain. Each neuron, like a bit player in a grand production, processes its information, then hooks up with as many as 50,000 other neurons to send and receive messages. 100 billion neurons times 50,000 connections. We know a little bit now about the communication lines between neurons, that they are powered with electricity. We also know that the messages neurons exchange are chemical molecules trapped inside these holding tanks until an electrical signal frees them. The molecules that move from one neuron to the next are called neurotransmitters. In the last decade, we detected transmitters that carry messages about pain and pleasure, about sadness and joy, about stress and relaxation. No one knows how many of these molecules of mood reside in the brain. There could be hundreds. So far, fewer than 50 have been identified. Serotonin is one of them. It's the brain's workhorse molecule, playing numerous roles, not the least of which is to inhibit our violent tendencies. Noradrenaline plays a Paul Revere kind of role. It sounds the alarm about threats from the outside world and prepares us for fight or flight. Substance P is a molecule that carries messages about pain. In a sense, Substance P is what prompts us to cry, ouch. Conversely, our brains produce painkillers, called endogenous morphines or endorphins. Neurotransmitters play a critical role in normal functioning, and yet it's easy to disrupt our chemical equilibrium. If electrical impulses go awry in the brain, the chemical transactions that are so dependent on them also go haywire. Mood disorders and mental illness can result. Change the level of a single neurotransmitter and it could upset the chemical balance of the entire brain.
Methamphetamine travels through the bloodstream to the nucleus accumbens, a central reward center for the brain. This is a release site for the neurotransmitter dopamine, the chemical key to human pleasure. Dopamine is a natural chemical that causes us to feel good. More dopamine means more pleasure. It's one of the ways the brain rewards behavior that helps us survive. Food and sex are two of the highest natural pleasures. In mice, they can trigger around 150 units of dopamine, but drugs trick the brain to go even further. Meth actually sneaks into the neurons and forces more dopamine out. One hit of meth may trigger more than 1,200 units of dopamine. That's a rush 3.5 times more intense than cocaine and about 6 times what the body can do on its own.